Oh, it was just dreadful. How could they desert their Flibian friend with his head in the dirt?
That's it then. I'm finished. I'll die here down under. If they would not help me, then who would?
He wondered. But then...
So for those of you who are wondering why I was playing this and what in the world that was, as I have been thinking about this event today, I've been working on this for over a month, thinking about clutter in our lives and in our schedules. And the song came to my head, Busy, Busy, Dreadfully Busy. You've No Idea What I Have to Do by VeggieTales. So if you've had young ones around in your life, you may have heard of VeggieTales. They are talking vegetables that tell Bible stories. And there's this one where they are talking about the Good Samaritan, and the people who pass by are too busy, right? And I just want to read you some of the lyrics. So if you couldn't pick up all the words, you can, and then you can YouTube this. But it says, I'm busy, busy, dreadfully busy. You've no idea what I have to do. Busy, busy, shockingly busy, much, much too busy for you. And then it goes on to, there are two of them then that both say they're too busy to help the poor guy who's fallen in a hole upside down. And it says, because we're busy, busy, frightfully busy, more than a bumblebee, more than an ant. Busy, busy, horribly busy. We'd love to help, but we can't. And then they say, ta-ta, and they just like walk on with their busy day, right? So I thought, what a great way to set the tone for our workshop today, because we live in a culture of busy, right? We have busy because we have all this stuff around us. We have busy because this thing follows us all the time and is dinging at us and giving us notifications and things like that. We have busy because we have these calendars and schedules that are packed full, and we live really busy, cluttered lives. And guess what? Just like those two characters had to say to their friend, we can't help you because I don't have space, right, in my life to help you, even though I would like to. Oftentimes we as women have to say to our dreams, sorry, I don't have space for you, right? And we just keep going on living these busy, cluttered lives. So I don't know about you, but that is not how I want to live. I want to create space for the things and the people that are important to me, and for the kind of life that I want to have, not just the cluttered life that it feels like you have. So whether you're coming in and listening live today, whether you're listening on the replay and you're feeling really cluttered and busy, you might even be multitasking right now as you're listening. I totally understand. Been there, done that. Maybe you're like, I was too busy to even hop on live. I wish that I could. Maybe you're, feeling like, I've kind of got a handle on this. So wherever you are, from either I feel like my life is not very cluttered and I'm doing pretty well, to, oh my goodness, I don't even know how I make it through the day, and then I get up and do it all over again. I hope that my prayer is that you will walk away with some nuggets today, some gems that are going to help you to start to declutter your life. So I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today, and follow along with me when we do that as well. So we're going to be talking about the 4 Ds to declutter, right? And the whole purpose for decluttering is to create space, because when we have clutter in our life, we're going to talk about several different places in your life that you might have clutter. It tends to take up space. And then when you want to bring something else in, because it's really important to you, there's not any space to do that. And then you have to be like those vegetables who are like, we'd love to help, but we can't. We don't have any space for you, right? That's not goal achieve thinking. And you're going to hear me talking a lot about goal achieve thinking, and we'll talk about what that means. But I want to start with this quote. Under the influence of clutter, so yes, you may not be under the influence of a substance, an illegal substance, but you are probably under the influence of clutter. We may underestimate how much time, and I put in parentheses, I added my own thing into this quote, and money and attention we're giving to less important stuff, right? Under the influence of clutter, we may underestimate how much time and money and attention we're giving to less important stuff. So I want you right now, I want you to, if you brought a piece of paper, I hope you did, or grab a piece of paper. You should have gotten the Clear the Clutter checklist, which we will be referring to as we go as well. So if you have this handy, that's great. If you haven't printed this out yet, you should have gotten this in an email. And if you haven't seen it, send me a direct email and I will directly send it to you again, because I know things can get lost in inboxes because those are cluttered, right? But I want you to put down on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being my life is so full of clutter, I couldn't fit another thing into my life if I wanted to a 10 being I have all this space in my life so that I can give my time, my money, and my attention to the things that matter most to me. Where would you put yourself just right now, coming in today, on a scale of 1 to 10? 1, my life is completely cluttered, no space. 10, I am super spacious and I have all the time, money, and attention that I need. Okay, that number is just for you, just to kind of, it's always good to evaluate, where are you coming in at? Where are you starting? Okay, and so let's start off by thinking about what is happening around us. Where do you see too much in your life? So there are a few of us that are on live, and Barb, you're welcome if you want to share. And if you are watching the replay, you can just kind of jot some things down on your paper. But where is there too much in your life? I mean, you can probably look around the room you're in. Look around the room right now that you are in, right? Does it look like that? You know how like you see those pictures in magazines of like, it's usually like some European flat, right? And it's really simplistic and minimalistic, and they just have these, you know, a few things, and it feels really open and sunny and all the things. How does your space around you look? And I have to be honest, my desk was completely decluttered this time last week, and I've been working on it this week. And yeah, now I've got my piles back of stuff that I'm working on. So what does your space around you look like? That's a place that we can have too much of, right? What about this thing? How often is this thing dinging at you? Are you willing to look and see how many of those little red circles do you have on this thing? Like how many emails are waiting for you? How many notifications are waiting for you? How many, texts are waiting unread? I've looked at some people's numbers on there and literally it gave me a heart attack. One of my friends had like 4,000 unread emails. I was like, how in the world do you do that? Like I would just cancel the account, and start over is what I would do. But, so we have a lot of clutter in our technology, right? We also have a lot of clutter in our schedules. So whether you're a paper calendar person, you're a digital calendar person, or you try to keep it all up here in your head, there's probably a lot of stuff that's all over there. You may have it color coded, like Barb and I do. You may have Post-it notes places, you may have, right? And it's just always full, right? There's just so much in our lives. And here's what happens. When we live a cluttered life, that clutter creates a burden, and it creates no space for what matters most. And, we're going to talk about today is what you truly desire, not just in things, right? But the kind of life that you desire, the things that you feel like God has called you to do. Is all of that just waiting for you to create space? Here's how you know. Have you ever said to yourself, I wish I had the time, I wish I had the money, or I wish I had the energy or the focus? Right? I mean, how often have we said that? Or when I have more time, energy, and focus, or if I had more time, energy, and focus, right? There are all these, we say that, and guess what? This might be a hard reality, so I'm just gonna, ask forgiveness afterwards. You have created the life that you have. This is your fault. I mean, like, let's take responsibility. When nothing came into your life if you did not allow it. Everything that is in your home, either you physically brought it into your home, or you allowed someone else to physically bring it into your home, and then you allowed it to stay there. Everything that is on your device, you physically put on there, or you allowed someone else to put on there. Everything that's on your calendar, right? So we have to take responsibility, which is actually really good news. Okay, so while that may hurt a little bit, ouch, a little sting, right? A little, it actually is good news, because guess what that means? Guess where the solution lies? With you, right? And it ends with you. This has nothing to do, because here's what we tend to do. Oh, if my spouse, oh, if my kids, oh, if my grandkids, oh, if my boss, oh, if my whatever, fill in the blank. We like to pass the buck to somebody else and say, this is, if they wouldn't do this, or if they would take this off my plate, then I wouldn't have such a cluttered life or a cluttered house or whatever. And really, again, we have to go back and look in the mirror and be like, what am I allowing in? And so today we're going to go through the 3 different areas that we really want to take a look at. And then we'll end up with the 4 Ds that can apply to anything that feels cluttered in your life. And then I have some really exciting news to share with you at the end. But here's what I want to get us thinking about first. When was the last time that you calculated the lifetime cost of what you allow in your life? Now, this is so interesting. I knew that I wanted to talk about decluttering in March. So if you're listening to this in real time, this is March 2022. But what I love is that this applies any time of year. Why do you think I want to do this in March? Because this is spring cleaning time, right? How many of you, holidays are over, it's starting to feel like spring outside and you feel like you want to shed all the stuff, right? And you're ready to just clean out and purge and all the things. So that's why I decided I want to do this. My dad, unbeknownst to him that I was planning this already, sends me this book. Like, he didn't ask permission. He's like, I hope I'm not offending you by sending you this book. But he had no idea how much this book was going to impact me and what we're going to be talking about today. And so I'm going to show you this book. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by a pastor named John Mark Comer. And in this, he talks about just the hurriness of life, the clutter of life, right? In all these different areas. And guess what I read this morning? Like, literally this morning, this is totally like only God. He said, every single thing you buy costs you not only money, but also time. Think about it. You buy that motorcycle you've always dreamed of, or fill in the blank with whatever it is that would be your thing, right? That's great. I used to ride. I miss it. Have fun. Don't die. But make sure you do the math before you sign on the dotted line. All the math. To own a bike costs a lot more than just the $250 per month payment that you can't really afford. It costs you time. You have to work more hours at your job to pay for it. You have to move faster through your day to get everything done. You have to keep your bike clean, and you have to maintain it. And when it breaks, you have to fix it. And of course, you have to have time to ride it. All of this takes a lot of time. Now, you might be in a season of your life where you have time to burn, and you might decide that riding a motorcycle is a life-giving activity for your soul. Great. I'm not remotely against it. I can vaguely remember a similar season before kids. But when you run your cost-benefit analysis, don't forget to calculate you're paying for that experience, not only in cash, but also in time. And less time means more hurry. So whether into motorcycles, sneakers, or Japanese anime, most of us simply have too much stuff to enjoy life at a healthy, unhurried pace. Let me read that last line again. I underlined it, okay? Whether you're into motorcycles, sneakers, or Japanese anime, most of us simply have too much stuff to enjoy life at a healthy, unhurried pace. So I want you to think right now, how do you feel in your life, right? When things are hurried, when things are cluttered, whether it's, again, physical space, we're talking about physical space, we're talking about technology, we're going to talk about your schedule. How does that make you feel? Do you feel light and free? Do you feel happy and fulfilled? Or do you feel overwhelmed and frustrated and like you're always on the hamster wheel, and you wake up, you crash in bed at night, completely exhausted, couldn't even really say what you got accomplished that day. And then you guess what happens? You get up the next day and then you do it all over again. It's like Groundhog Day, right? So here are 3 things that I really want you to start considering about the lifetime cost of what you allow into your life. The first one is money, right? It's not just what's on the price tag. Like I read in what the quote that I just said, it's the cost to maintain it, to repair it. Now that your life depends on that appliance or whatever that thing is, and then you need to replace it one day. So you really need to ask yourself, is this still a bargain, right? How is this affecting my profitability? How is this affecting my future finances? Not just in, yeah, it was a great sale at the time, but all the money that this is going to cost over the lifetime of me owning it. Is that going to move me towards the goals and the lifestyle that I truly desire? The second area is your time, right? It didn't just take the time to go to the store, and now they make it even easier. All you do is pick up this thing, you click a button, and it's on its way to your house, right? So it doesn't take a lot of time sometimes to shop, but it takes time to clean it. Maybe you even have to create space for it in your house because you don't really have a space to put it. You got to take care of it, even the time to use it. Like, is it still really saving you? Here's what's interesting. He talked in this book that futurists back in 1960 predicted that we would only be working 4 hours in the morning, and the rest of the day would be us just on the golf course because we would have robots and time-saving devices that would do the rest of our work. I venture to say that in 2022, we are working way more than they did back in 1960. right? So not only have all these time-saving devices not saved us time, they've actually added time. Before you were tracking, things on your watch or things on your app or whatever, you just did it. You didn't stop to like have to check all that stuff, right? So it's impacting our productivity, right? And not just like in a business way, but like productivity, like what am I moving towards? And am I really, working towards the things that are important to me? And then the third thing that that clutter leads to that costs us is our energy, right? Again, we think, oh, this is going to save me time, right? But guess what? It robs us of attention. It makes us distracted. So oftentimes those things that are around us that are filling us are taking away from the possibility because we can't see and think about the possible. We just have to, try to maintain everything that's around us. So these are the three things that I really want you to start thinking about when you allow something into your life, right? How much money is this going to cost me? How much time is this going to cost me? How much energy is this going to cost me? And is this cost going to help me to move towards this life that I desire, towards these dreams and these goals and the purpose that God has put on your life to have, right? And here's, I think, where we often find ourselves. I want you to answer to yourself, or feel free to drop it in the chat if you want to, or say it out loud. Are you oblivious to the problem in your life with clutter? Or are you overwhelmed with the solution? I think sometimes it's like blinders on, I don't even see it, right? Like, have you ever walked into someone else's house and you're like, whoa, clutter city, right? But you walk through your house and you don't even notice it. So often we are completely oblivious, right? Or maybe you notice it, but you're totally overwhelmed. How many of you, when you get overwhelmed, you shut down, you do nothing, right? Like you're just like, feels way too overwhelming, don't have time. I know Barb and I were talking earlier about taxes. Like taxes is one of those things that I just go, I feel like it's going to take so much time and I just don't even want to start. Right? So that often happens with whatever these areas of clutter are, is that we just get overwhelmed with what it would take to fix the problem. And so what do we do? In both cases, whether you're oblivious or you're overwhelmed, we do nothing, right? But that doesn't fix the problem. Because look at this. So I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and she said, did you know that clutter actually means the same thing as coagulate, which means you have stuck energy, right? You have stuck money, you have stuck time, you have stuck energy, you have stuff that you could be using towards what matters that is now stuck because of clutter. I was like, whoa, okay, never thought about it that way, right? I just think that, oh, it's just, I just need to clean that up. I'm not really looking at it as this is keeping me stuck, right? But that's the perspective we want to start getting, is like, how is the stuff that I'm allowing in my life, whether it's physical stuff, technology stuff, schedule stuff, we'll touch on a few other things at the end. How is this keeping me stuck where I am instead of moving towards living out this purpose, moving me towards this vision that I have of what God's called me to do and what I want my life to look like and how I want to make an impact, right? What if you took all that money, time, and energy that you've been investing in all the things you allow into your world, and what if you redirected that towards what you truly desire, right? I mean, even just think like just as simply as, going to Starbucks is like $5 a day. And that's probably on a good day, right? That's probably, you're not getting a whole lot. $5 a day over a week is $25. So there's money that's stuck and keeping you in that place, right? What could you do with $25? And then think about that for somebody who does that, every day, 20 days a month, right? 5 days a week. Now, how much money are you talking about that's stuck just in that one place? You're not even realizing it. So what we want to do today is I want you to start uncovering this and start seeing the clutter, right? So that you can start, well, first we have to notice it so that way we can address it, right? So that way we can create space for the things that matter most. And that's what living repurposed is all about. When you know what your purpose is, then you know that where you want your time, money, and attention to go, right? And so one of the things that I love coming alongside women to do is like, let's create a personalized plan so that you're not wasting again. Nobody wants to waste anything, right? But we waste things every single day because of all the stuff that we have to maintain and all the stuff that we brought into our lives. So right now, I want you to commit to the fact that you are going to declutter your life so you never have to tell your future self, I can't fit you in. Shelly, you missed the very beginning, but I was playing the VeggieTales song, which is busy, busy, dreadfully busy. If you've watched that with kids,
Oh yeah,
right? Like
many times, many times.
They were too busy to help their friend. They're like, we'd love to help, but we can't, right? But we do the same thing to our future self, right? To the health that we want to have in the next 5 to 10 years, because we've cluttered our life, now. to the finances we want to have in the next 5 to 10 years, to the ministry, to the impact, to all these things. We are basically saying no to her right now. I can't fit you in, right? But this is, and then we're gonna go back to this. Guess what? We are responsible, which also means that we can change that. So let's start with the physical space. I think this one is the best one to start with because you can see the progress a whole lot faster because it's tangible, right? It's measurable. So I want you to think right now, and I gave you, if you've gotten the checklist, there's some ideas in here as well about places that you might want to think about decluttering in your home environment. What are some places around you that are typically cluttered?
My desk.
For sure, right? It's usually where you're spending the most time, right? You know? Yeah, I'll tell my husband, wait, no, these piles, like I'm working on these things. Don't move these, you know, I need this all here, right? Yeah. The kitchen can be another one. We currently don't have a working dishwasher. Bless my husband's heart. He spent 5 hours trying to install a new part on Wednesday night, and it did not work after the part finally got in. So my kitchen sink, my counters can get cluttered, right? Paperwork.
Yeah, mine is right beside my kitchen cupboard. Like there's a counter, sort of lower counter with books on it, and I just keep stacking stuff on it, and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm looking at it right now, which is just killing me because
that's okay. We're going to do something about it in just a minute, Barb. So just hang on. Okay, we're going to do something in a minute. It's going to feel really good. In fact, Shelly, since you're on, I was going to tell your story, but I'm going to have you tell your box story in just a minute. Okay, so if you don't remember, I'll jog your memory in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we all have the junk drawer, right? We all have the junk counter. We all have
5 or 6 of them.
Exactly, right? That every time you open it, you're like hoping it's not gonna like, you know, fall all the way out, or everything's, you know, you open that closet and stuff comes like tumbling out, and so you just slam the door shut. Like we can make our space look clean, but it's, you know, but we all know it's behind closed doors, right? We know what our garage looks like. I thought it was really interesting. They talked in here about like storage units. We have enough storage units for every American to fit inside of their own I think it was like a 1 foot square space. Like we have collected so much stuff that now we have to create more places to store all of our stuff. And then you forget what's even in there, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be your kitchen, your bedroom, your office, your living area, your storage spaces, your garage, your basement, right? Wherever it is. And it doesn't matter if it's a lot or a little. Okay, let's think about this. How does it affect you? How does seeing clutter, physical clutter around you, how does it tend to affect you?
It makes me tired. I mean, it really, you know, makes me really, and it makes me crabby because I get frustrated because I'm like, there's just so much junk, you know, yeah. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Can you resonate with that, Barb?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. Like, I think we sometimes we can't find stuff. How often have you been like, I know this was right here. Like it was here and now I'm spending time now to try and find something. Or I wanted to do something, but well, I guess I can't because all this other stuff is in the way, right? Or I can't even think about things because I don't have the energy zapped, or I'm distracted by all this stuff. I can't function, right? And then maybe I want to add something new and I'm like, can I? I don't even know. Like that's not goal achieved thinking. So goal achieved thinking is when you are making decisions today as if you are yourself with your goal already achieved, right? There's no way that you are going to get from where you are to where she is if you keep allowing all the clutter stuff to take up that space and to take up that focus and all of that. So Shelly, I love that you're on here because I was going to tell your story about box. So Shelly and I did a live Facebook thing inside of her group. You need to check out her Facebook group. So Shelly, I'll let you tell the name of your Facebook group in a minute. And Shelly was challenged about some physical clutter that she needed to take care of because there was this box that had been sitting by her. So do you remember what I'm talking about, Shelly? You want to tell the box story?
Because it's gone right now, by the way. I did that right after our talk. But yeah, it was a box that I had carried in that I had been stacking stuff in it. Like I carried it in from an event that I had done. And then rather than putting the stuff away, it had been sitting there and I kept adding more things to it. And right in front of my desk, it was sitting right. I could see it every time I sat down at my desk. And so as Lissa was talking about clutter and getting rid of things, I was looking at this box and it was driving me crazy. So as soon as we got off that meeting, I got rid of the stuff in the box, or I put it away.
And how long did that box sit there before that, Shelly?
3 weeks.
Okay. And how long did it take you to empty that box, Shelly?
About 3 minutes. Right.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Look at that.
But it's like I just walk by and be like, I gotta do it, I gotta do it. And then I get sidetracked doing something different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
yeah.
even just the mental time that it took up for you to even say to yourself, I got to do this, or I should do this, or whatever. Just the fact that you were
Right.
even noticing it was taking your focus away from whatever you were doing when you were sitting at your desk.
Oh, exactly, exactly. And I've got so much of that. Like I think I'm so afraid of getting rid of things because
Mm,
I'm like, what if I'm gonna need it?
mm,
But then I can't find it if I need it anyway.
right?
So it's like a cycle,
Yeah.
and I just don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you asked because I've got 3 tips. Okay. So the first thing is that you don't take on the entire house. All right. Because nobody's going to see the light of day for the next year if you decide you're taking on your whole house. Although Shelly is moving, so it's a kind of a forced decluttering. So
Right.
that is a good thing for you, Shelly. But for those of us who are not moving in the next few months, choose one space, one thing that is a distraction for you, one thing that needs attention, one thing that is important. It may even just, sometimes I like to say, pick an easy win. Like for Shelly, that box was an easy win, right? It maybe wasn't the biggest thing that was the most distracted and needed the most attention in her house, but guess what? It was a quick win. And guess what happens when you get a quick win and you declutter one thing? How does that make you feel? Oh, I should do this now. Oh, that wasn't so bad, right? Like it starts building that momentum. The second thing is to change your perspective. So Shelly, I think you brought up a really good thing because we tend to look back at the past and like, oh, these are things from when I was a kid or my kids, or, what if one day I want this, or this was great grandma's. I mean, we have a lot of that kind of stuff too, right? We're sentimental about it. And yet we have to ask ourselves the question, would our goal achieved self, what would her viewpoint be, right? Would she say that this is important? Some of those sentimental things, she may say, yes, this is very important, but maybe not all of it. So I was at a friend's house the other day and she had all of this like collection from her. She and her mom would collect stuff. And she's like, I don't need 100 different pieces of this collection. What if I just pick the 1 or 2 that are like the most important to me? And that still will help me remember my mom and how we did this together. But then I don't have the clutter of the other 98. Right. Or, so like sometimes it's what can I do that would be representative of this if there's some sentimental value to it? But I think there are a lot of things that we hang on to for that very reason you said, Shelly, like maybe someday I'm going to use it. Here's the rule. If you haven't used it in the past year, then get rid of it, right? Because you probably aren't going to need it. And if you do, guess what? You can either A, figure out how to live without it, or B, you can just go buy another one if it really is that important. So I think really. And so not just looking at like, okay, and here's another thing too, like, especially when it comes to women and our closets, we look at clothes that, I wore this when I was this weight, right? And so I'm holding on to them just in case I gain weight again. Well, if that's not your goal, if you with your goal achieved is not 20 pounds heavier than you are right now, get rid of it. There's no reason to hang on to something that is not going to benefit you with your goal achieved. Right. But we do that because we're like, oh, well, what if, and oh, well, and really, maybe somebody else could benefit from it. And so the third thing is to consider the location. Where is the best home for this? And I like to give 3 options. And Shelly, I shared this on your video, right? I told you about the 3 bags. I would do this with my kid, and I do this with myself too. Grab 3 paper grocery bags, and on the outside of the bag, on one of them, write throwaway. On the second one, write giveaway. And the third one, write put away. Okay. And so that way, when you're in a room, so say you're in your office, because that's where I am right now, right? So as you're working through things and you're decluttering, guess what happens? What happens when you go to throw that thing away in the kitchen? And then you get distracted by the dishes, or you get distracted by the dryer, or you get distracted by the dog or the whatever, right? And then we don't get back to what we were doing. So by having those 3 categories, you just stick it in the bag. And then when you're done with that time period, so I like to either say, give yourself a time frame, like I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is. Or when you finish cleaning the space you committed to, then you take those bags and take the throwaway one there and take the giveaway to wherever you're going to put your donate stuff. And then, take the put away one to wherever you're going to, where it really needs to go. So it's, everything will reside in one of those 3 places. And so it's just making those decisions and doing that. Okay. So here's where I want you to commit to something. Okay. I want you right now to write down one thing that you are going to choose to declutter that will help you to focus on what matters. Okay, so Barb, it might be that counter for you. Shelly, now that box is gone, I don't, what's the next thing that you need to go through?
Stack on my desk.
Okay, the stack on your desk. Maybe you're just joining us, and I know you might be driving or doing something like that, but we're talking about what's one physical space that we are going to commit to decluttering. Now, I'm even going to say this, even if you just, as soon as we're done, or even if right now I will let you excuse yourself to literally leave for 1 minute, if you go do one thing and remove one piece of clutter from that space, guess what? You're going to feel like you're taking action towards it, right? Because it's always the getting started that is sometimes the hardest thing. So either right now, literally get up and go grab something from that space and get rid of it, or commit to, as soon as we're done, go ahead, Barb, you can get off camera if you want to grab something. Or as soon as we're done, then be like, yep, I'm going to go get something, and I'm going to put this in one of those 3 places, right? We want to start making space. And doesn't it feel so much better and fresher? Like, I feel like lighter. I feel like I can breathe.
I'm gonna go get a paper bag so I can start on my pile.
Awesome. See, look at this, right? Like, this is like I love this. We are working. Oh, we got a basket here, Barb. Look at that. Yes. Right? Like, I love getting into action, right? Like, just do 20 seconds and go, what can I do right now? And get that process started. Because as soon as you get the process started, it's going to be easier to keep the momentum going. Right? So that's the one area that I think we see the most often, and it's a lot easier to deal with. The second area that we're going to talk about is our paperwork and technology. And I want to remind you of this first. What you give your attention to is who you become. Let me say that again, because I'm going to show you some statistics in just a minute, and you're going to like go, right? What you give your attention to is who you become. So when you think about technology, paperwork can kind of fill under there, but we're going to go more on the technology side, because I think that's more of an issue. Back in the day, it was all paper, and we still have some paper in our lives, but I think more of it is technology. And if you look on your checklist, email inbox, hard drives, smartphone, downloaded files, apps, old contracts, photos, things that can be in, for your taxes, receipts, backup documentation, utility bills, credit card statements, old user manuals for things that you had. Then we think about all the apps, all the streaming services that we have, all the stuff. Listen to these statistics. The average person has 2,716 interactions with her phone in a day. In a day. Yes, and that's average, which means some of us are more than that. Even if you were half of that, even if you were a fourth of that, right? The average person scrolls social media 60 hours a month. Wow, talk about stuck energy. What could you do? That's 2 hours a day. How many times have you ever said, I wish I had an extra 2 hours in my day? Anybody ever said, I wish I had an extra 2 hours in my day? Guess what? You probably have at least an hour. That would be half of the average of that, right? You may be the person who scrolls more than that. Some of us use our phone for business too. So it's really hard to know where that line is, right? Because we can very easily get stuck in scroll hole and not have a purpose. We'll talk about what to do with that. The average person watches 2,735 hours of TV or some kind of streaming on their device a year. 2,735. Never again can you say, I don't have time for this. It's I'm choosing not to make time for this, right? Because we are unconsciously making time for all this clutter that we're allowing in, right? Look at the statistic. 77% of adults say that when they have idle time, they pick up their phone. Remember back in the day when you would just stand in line and actually talk to the people that were in line in front of you or behind you? Remember back in the day when you were sitting in traffic and you would just listen to the radio or be quiet or, talk to the people in the vehicle with you? Remember back in the day when you would just like go for a walk because it was a beautiful day outside? And what do we do now? We scroll, we surf, we buy, we play, we get that next victory in Candy Crush, whatever, right? Like this new continuous partial attention is our new normal. It's like we always have this is almost like another appendage, right? How many hours of your day, waking hours, how many waking hours of your day is this thing not nearby you, within arm's reach? Right? Do you during your waking hours ever even go an hour without this being within arm's reach? Me either, right? And so our lives are so cluttered. You think back to all of us are over 40, right? We grew up in the era that we didn't have this thing. I mean, there are some benefits, like I know where my kids are, right? They can connect with me, you know, if they need something and they're somewhere else or whatever. But when we were growing up, we didn't have that, right? You had to like sit by the phone, sit by the wall with this cord attached to it. Everybody could hear your conversation, right? I remember like we didn't even have a remote control for the TV. We had to get up, go over, turn the knob to get to the next, you know, you had to be on at the right time to watch the show or you were going to miss it. You know, we didn't have any way to record it. My brother and I even recorded different strokes with an audio tape because it was before VCRs and we want to be able to play it back, right? Like now it's like you can access whatever you want 24 hours a day. So we have allowed all of this clutter through our technology into our life. And now we have this partial attention. You know, you watch a family after dinner, sitting on the couch. What are they doing? Scrolling or on a device or watching something. And usually everybody's doing something different. Right? And maybe you've got a family night once a week where everybody watches the same movie or everybody plays the same game, but how often, you know, or even at the dinner table, in the car, like we just allow this all the time in. And so I want to tell you a story about one of my clients who was always finding that she didn't have enough time, right? And one of the things that we discovered as we were talking about it, and we were looking at her time and what she was doing with it, was that she was grabbing her phone because this was her alarm clock, which it's my alarm clock too. But then she would grab this and guess what? She'd start looking at the notifications. She'd start scrolling on, you know, on social media. And then before she knew it, 20, 30, 40 minutes went by. And she was like, oh my goodness, I have to get ready. Like, right? Because she didn't have any boundaries around it. She didn't have a purpose around it. And she can't get that time back. So we work together to, first of all, raise her awareness to say, hey, here is something that is, you know, coagulating your energy and your time. What can we do to start, you know, taking that away? So here are a couple of ideas for you. The first is do a 24-hour tech fast, which I know 24 hours sounds like a long time. Now, I'm just going to say, let you know this, like, especially if you have an online business, you're like, oh my goodness, could I even do that? But let me just say, this book that I showed earlier, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, he talks in here about how God gave us a Sabbath rest for a reason. Like we need at least one day a week that we are unplugged from life and work and busy and all the things. So make it a weekend day, right? Make it a Sunday and just say, I'm just not going on my devices for today. So as I was preparing this content, I was like, I don't know if I could do 24 hours. So maybe you start with like 2 hours, you know, start small, but guess what? I decided, you know what, it was at the time my son was coming home for a week before he's going to be gone for work for a long time, and we're not going to see him. And he was home and we were going away for the weekend. Now, typical Alyssa would bring her computer. She'd bring her project she's working on. She's using car time, right? Because I got to multitask. I got all this stuff to do. I got people to serve. I got things to, you know, check off. I got, you know, right? Content to prep for this workshop, all the things. And I decided, you know what? No, I don't want to be I don't want to give partial attention to my son when he's home. I'm going to fully do this. So guess what? I did a 4-day tech fast last week, Thursday through Sunday. And you know what? It wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And you know what? It felt way better than I thought it was going to. And when I came back on Sunday night, I opened some things up Sunday night because I needed to prep for some stuff on Monday. Guess what? The world had gone on without me. And I didn't miss anything that really mattered, right? So if you think you aren't addicted, how do you feel when I just said, do a tech fast, right? So again, maybe it's not 24 hours, maybe you commit to 2 hours. And you're like, you know what? And it does not count if it's during when you're sleeping. That does not count. Okay, because you're already off their device at that time anyway. Make it during the time, make it, you know, from after dinner until bedtime and just try it, right? Or make it, you know, 2 hours in your morning. You know, for me, my rule is I don't open up this before I open up my Bible and before I put, you know, a lot of good learning into me, because otherwise this is going to start filling my day. And that's not what I want to fill my day, my time, my mind, things like that. Okay. Start notice when you do unplug, how do you feel? What are you afraid of? You might be afraid you're going to miss something, right? But then what do you start thinking about? And what do you do instead with that time? I guarantee it's probably going to be things that are going to move you towards what really matters most, right? When you have that time that's not being sucked up by a device. When you come back from that, then do a goal achieve tech dump. Okay, so now that you've had some time away, start going through and you put it into one of two categories. Is it needed or is it needless? Right? So think about your phone. What are the apps on there that you need, your goal achieved self would need, right? What are the ones that she's like, yeah, I don't need this. Get rid of them. There's no reason for them to be on there. At the very least, turn off notifications, right? There's no reason for your phone to be dinging at you all day long and telling you every time that there's some message somewhere. We'll talk about what to do with that in just a minute, but only keep the things that you with your goal achieved would keep. That is also going to mean probably going through your emails and unsubscribing to those emails that you just keep getting and you don't even open them anyway. You just literally, hopefully it's not mine. And if it is, that's okay. You can unsubscribe from me. I don't, that's fine. If I'm not helping you with your goal achieved, then cut me out. But you know how you get those ones and you don't even open it. So you have no idea what it said inside. You just delete it. Like literally take 2 seconds to open it and click unsubscribe, or open it and read it. Maybe it is something that would benefit you, right? But like start clearing stuff out. So that way it's not always just cluttering it up. I don't know about you guys, but an almost empty, I don't know if I ever get down to 0, but an almost empty inbox feels really good, right? And so, just even messages unread, things like that, like just do it, right? Just do it and decide. And then the last step is to make a healthy tech plan, right? So here's where, yes, turn off those notifications. You don't need to know 24/7 every time somebody comments or likes or sends a message or whatever, right? What you need to do is create time blocks with a purpose. So say, for this 15 minutes, I'm going to go on Facebook for 15 minutes and I'm going to do this, this, and this while I'm on there, right? Set a timer on your phone and be on there for that purpose. And guess what? When that timer goes off, I'm done, right? So decide when and why are you going to go on your technology, and make sure that both of those are leading towards you with your goal achieved. And then when you're done with it, turn it off or go on to something else, right? Leave the room. Here's another one. I didn't stick this in here. They actually did a study. If your device is in the same room as you are, even if it's turned off, they're showing that you are distracted and it decreases your working memory. It also decreases your communication, right? Because you're, for whatever reason, just it being in the same room. So leave it in your office and go to another part of your house, right? Why do we think this has to be with us all the time, right? So this is a hard one, you guys. But it can really make a difference because we are in this new age of technology that it's just sucking up so much stuff. So here's our commitment step, right? What is one step that you're willing to take to declutter technology so that you can focus on what matters? Anybody willing to share while we're on, or at least I want you to write it down and commit to yourself. I'm going to do this, whether it's a tech fast, whether it's an app you don't need, whether it's a bunch of pictures you need to go through. I don't know about you guys. I have all these random pictures on my phone that I don't need or want. I just need to get rid of them, right? And then move the other ones to the hard drive and, whatever.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that, Lisa, is that's the first thing I can do is because when you take a picture, you take not one, you take like 15 of the
right?
same thing, just so I need to go through all those 15 and choose one of the good, and yeah, so that's my number one thing. I wrote that down.
Good for you. Good idea. Love it. Anything specific coming up for you, Barb? You're muted, but that's fine if you don't want to unmute.
I'm trying to oh, there it is. It wasn't happening. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's a huge piece, is maybe doing the 15-minute block, because I can find that when I do go on and look at things, it does eventually end up being an hour and a half. And then I think that's just that's time gone.
Exactly.
And it's frustrating.
Yeah.
So maybe just limit to 15 minutes by a time.
Right. And you can say, I'm going to do 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening, right? Or I'm going to do 15, like it doesn't have to be like all I get is 15 minutes, but you may find, this is all I need, because and that's where you want to think, Barb, like when I go on, what's my purpose, right? Am I checking on specific people, specific family members, specific groups, specific people I follow? Like, what am I on here to do? What's my goal? And we use it for self-medicating. Again, it's just an idle time filler now, right? Which is not going to be productive. I'd much rather dream and think and pray and have conversations than just be scrolling mindlessly for no reason. And then buying things I didn't want because suddenly I saw this Instagram ad that looked so amazing. And now it's in my inbox and it's on its way to my house, right? Now I've got more physical clutter to deal with because I was not off my technology. So, and he talks a lot in this book about like the propaganda of advertising and how they're just trying to push us with all these things that we need, right? But if we didn't spend, I think the average person sees 4,000 ads a day now is what he talked about in here. You guys, that is out of control, right? No wonder we have a physical clutter problem because we have a technology clutter problem. So it's this, our first step is being aware, okay? And then our second step is gonna start, like I'm gonna start doing life differently. So next, let's talk about schedule. And I love this quote from that book. It's a solution to an over busy life is not more time. Again, how many times have you said, if I had an extra hour or 2 or 10, let me just tell you right now, if you had an extra hour or 2 or 10, guess what? It would get filled with all the same stuff and you would still feel like you didn't have enough time, right? So the solution to an overbusy life is not more time. It's to slow down and simplify. And I love this part. You, period, can't, period, do, period, it, period, all, period. You can't do it all. So here's where you have to decide what is most important. Where do I want my time and my energy and my focus to go? Okay, now this is another one. I'm raising my hand really high on this one. Okay, do you intentionally leave white space on your calendar or do you pack it in like rush hour traffic? And what happens in rush hour traffic? When one car gets bumped, it bumps into the next one, which bumps into the next one, which bumps into the next one. Like I've had days where it's like if something ran over, I didn't have time to go to the bathroom or eat. That's not healthy, right? I'm not showing up as my best for each of those when I don't have some kind of okay, I'm stopping, breathing, getting fresh air, exercise, food, water, just a brain break, whatever, right? But what do? We're in this hustle and hurry mindset, right? Hashtag YOLO, you only live once, hashtag FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, right? So I'm gonna do. But a lot of times we're filling our calendar, sometimes on purpose and sometimes without even realizing it, with things that are not really goal achieve thinking, right? They're not the things that are going to move us with our goal achieved. It's just taking up all that time that's actually keeping us from becoming that girl with our goal achieved. So one of my other clients, I call this the all the things story, right? She's a busy mom. She's got young kids. She's a busy wife. Her husband works a not typical schedule. She works full time. She is also building a business and writing a book. Guess what? Her days are busy, right? And so it's very easy. When we started working together, she felt like she was just dropping all the balls. Like, she's like, I get through my day, but I don't know how, and I don't know what I did, and I didn't do anything that I really wanted to. And then I get up and I do it all over again. Like, how frustrating is that, right? And, and like the things like her business and her book were becoming the one day plan, right? One day I'm going to, well, guess what? If she, continuing in that rat race, and I'm not just pointing the finger at her, I'm pointing all the fingers right back here too, right? Continuing that rat race, I will never have the time for whatever that extra thing is. And I will never get to that if it's a one day plan, right? And that doesn't even bring in like other things in my community and church and, exercise and self-care and all the things, right? So what we did is we got really clear on what her priorities are. That vision for her life. Number one, she had to know her purpose. Number two, she had to get a clear vision. What do I want my life to look like? What do I want my marriage to look like? What do I want my parenting to look like? What do I want my work life to look like? What do I want this business to look like, right? And then from there, now build your schedule. So, one of the things we have to do is we have to get quiet, because I think we pack ourselves so tightly, right, that we don't ever just turn off and tune in. When was the last time you just sat and you were still? That you connected with yourself, that you were curious, that you got creative and you really thought about what matters? It's probably been a while, right? Or not as often as it should be. So the first thing is really to get quiet, and really think and give yourself some space. You may not feel like you have the time to do that, but guess what? We are all wasting so much time. If we don't stop and take the time to do something like that, we will keep wasting more time. So it's almost like we don't have time not to, right? Then what you do is you get focused. You decide before your day starts, or maybe even the night before, what are my 3 action steps for the day? If I did nothing else in my day, these are the 3 most important things that I'm going to do, and then assign them to a time block in your day. I used to be the to-do list girl. Anybody else a to-do list girl? You got that list of all the things you have to do. And then if it didn't get done, then you'd have to rewrite the list on the next day, and then rewrite it in the next day. And then eventually I get tired of doing that. So then I just have a to-do list that was separate, that just would literally follow me around through my day, because I never really got to the end of it, right? I hate to-do lists. So I don't do to-do lists anymore. I time block. If I know something needs to be done, I make an appointment with myself on my calendar. And this goes into this time spot. right? Now, there are times when I put it in a time spot and something else comes up and it can't happen there, but guess what? Just like your hair appointment, I'm rescheduling mine for next week. But that doesn't mean I'm never going to get my hair cut. I'm just going to move it to a different time block on my calendar, right? Because that hair appointment is important. I need to make sure that, that I get that trim in that I need to get, right? So when you decide what your 3 important things are, ideally, this closer in your day before your day fills with clutter, the better, right? But sometimes we can't always do everything that we need to do first thing in the morning. So it may need to fit in somewhere else in the day, but just decide ahead of time, not like, oh, I hope to get to this today. Hope is not a plan, or I wish I could get to this today. That's not going to happen, right? And then the last thing you do is you need to get protective. Say no. Have you heard that? No is a complete sentence. No, period. Right? No, we can say no. We do not have to say yes to all the things that come into our life, to all the opportunities that come, to all the things that even if it's not somebody else asking, just things that we're asking, or that from looking at technology, it's saying that we should do or whatever, right? I love the book, The Best Yes by Lisa TerKeurst. So if you've not read that book, I highly recommend it. It's about not just saying no, but giving your best yes, right? So when I say, if I'm saying yes to this opportunity, to this task, to this whatever it is this my best yes? Like, will I be able to fully be present for this yes? Will I be able to give all that I want to give to that? And how is this going to affect the other things around me, right? How many times have you said yes to something and you were like, half doing it, and then you resented the fact that you were doing it, and then your family's not getting the best of you because by the time you get back from that, you're exhausted, right? Like, so only focus on the best yes thing and guard your time. Like, this is like a war against our time, right? All those advertisers out there are out there to try to fill your house, your time, your space with all their things, right? They're making money off all of that. So we have to be on guard and say, I'm only allowing into my life what is most important. And always think about it from you with your goal achieved. Would she say yes to this right now? Right? Would Shelly with her goal achieved say yes to this thing that's in front of her right now? Yes or no? And there may be things on your plate that you've already said yes to, and we'll talk about what to do with that in just a minute, that you're gonna need to go back and reevaluate. One thing I'm gonna recommend doing, I'm actually doing this myself right now. If you've ever said, I don't have the time for this, I challenge you to print off a blank, I just Googled this blank weekly calendar, and I'm filling in for a week, every hour, this is actually every half hour, what I'm doing with my time. And then I'm going to take my highlighters and I'm going to highlight the categories of what I'm doing so that I can really look back and see, how am I spending my time? Is there wasted time in here? Is there stuff that really shouldn't be taking up time, or that I'm not realizing how much time it's taking? I'm giving it too much time, because guess what? Time is a vacuum. If you give yourself 3 hours to do a project, guess how long it's going to take you? 3 hours. If you give yourself an hour for that same project, you probably will get it done in an hour or close to it, right? So start paying attention to where your time is going. I equate this to, have you guys ever had to do like a food journal where you write down everything you're eating? And so then you're more cognizant of what you're eating, because if I put that cookie in my mouth, then I'm gonna have to write that down. I don't want to write it down, so I'm not gonna eat it. I think the same thing can happen with our time. If you have to write down, I was on Netflix from this time to this time, you might think differently before you do it. So that's going to be like a little extra bonus, challenge for you that ties in with this. So when you think right now, I want you to choose one task that you know that you do, or one commitment that you have that you can just get rid of. The world will still keep turning if you don't do it, or you don't give your time to this. I want you to write that one thing down. It may just be something inside of you, and that it's just a conversation you need to have with yourself to say, I'm not doing this anymore. It may be a conversation you have to have with somebody else. It's maybe somebody that you've been doing something for a while. And how many times have you volunteered for something because your kids were in the activity, and then you're still doing it even after your kids graduated? You're like, why am I still doing this? Right? Maybe it's something that like you've been doing for your family all the time. And you're like, you know what? We're gonna talk about this in a minute. Somebody else in the family can do this. This just does not have to be a mom thing. I'm not the only person in this house that can do this thing. So I want you to commit right now to what's that one thing. It's either a task or a commitment that you currently have on your calendar or your weekly schedule. Maybe it's not every week, maybe it's once a month or something, even at that, right? Like yesterday I was like, I have this one meeting. It's only once a month, but really I'm not getting any value out of it. So guess what? It's gone. I've just decided I'm not going. It's not serving me with my goal achieved. Anyone willing or wanting to share before we move on?
Yeah,
thinking.
I definitely have a meeting that I go to every month, and I'm thinking it's really not adding anything to my life. I think I feel like I need to be there, but yeah, I just wrote it down. Meeting's gone.
All right.
So,
And that's a good test, Barb. If you say I need to do this or I should do this, should. Anytime you say I should do this, that's a big red flag that it probably doesn't need to be there. It's an expectation either you have of yourself or somebody else has of you. Yeah. Shelley, was there anything specific for you?
Well, I'm just thinking, I'm having a hard time because, you know, of course, everything we do, we feel like, you know, we have to do it. So I have recently done some of that stuff, not intentionally, but I've made a list of chores of things that my girls can be doing. Like, I do not need to pack their lunches every day. They are old enough that they can pack their own lunches.
Yeah.
You know, I do not need to tell them to take their supplements every day. They're old enough, they can do that. I do not need to get them out for them. So, like, I've recently made a list I have in the refrigerator that they have to do every day.
Good for you.
So,
yeah.
So I'm trying to think of some. I'll think of.
Maybe do a time audit, Shelley, or go back and look at your calendar for the last week and just look at this past week and say, is there anything in here that really I didn't need to do? You know,
let me tell you what I think that I spend way too much time scrolling stuff, like looking at, you know. So one thing that I have recently done too is, you know, for my business, I'm in a lot of different messenger threads, different groups, and I've just stopped reading them. I've just, you know, I'm like, I do not need to go back and read what everyone's saying.
You
so
can
that
silence
is one
those.
thing that I've recently stopped doing too. So I'm trying to, like, you've taught me a lot, Lisa. I'm really trying to, I still have a long way to go, but like I'm doing these little baby steps.
Yeah, this is not, we're going to tackle all of this clutter, right? In all these areas of our life today. This is just raising our awareness and then saying, this is a small baby step, right? Where I'm going to start. And guess what? Just because we've had this conversation, just because you've been on live or you've watched the replay, you're going to start thinking differently. And I always want you to approach everything from you with your goal achieved. What would she say about this thing? What would she say about this technology? What would she say about this commitment or thing in her schedule, right? Is this going to matter to you 5 or 10 years from now?
Right.
You know, and just being
funny,
aware.
I was listening to a training this morning, and then they said the same thing. They're like, if you're getting upset about something, is in 5 years from now, are you even going to remember that you got upset about that? And if you're not, then why are you getting upset about it?
Yeah. Just let it go, right?
Yeah, let it go.
Yep. And there are a lot of good things, right? I think our schedules, and all of us on here, I know all of you, you know, personally very well, we are all filling our life and our days with a lot of good things. But that doesn't mean that just because it's good that it needs to be in our schedule, right? We only want the great, the best, okay, Lord, what you show me what the most important things are. Not just what's good, right? Or what I think is good, but just really what's the best. And then start thinking, what else is robbing from your dreams? Financial clutter, right? How many subscriptions are you paying for of things that you're not even using? Right? How many things are you on auto pay that you're like, I can't even remember the last time I opened that or looked at that or, you know, read that magazine. I unsubscribed from some magazines. I was like, I never sit down and read them. Yeah, it was fun once in a while, but you know what? If I want to buy that one, if I really want to look at it, I'll buy it at the grocery store. Yes, I'll pay more money for it, but I'm not reading all of them anyway. So I'd rather buy the one before I go on a trip or before I go on a flight, you know, and really enjoy looking at it than have all this pile of ones that are now taking up clutter on my coffee table. Right? Here's another one. And Shelley, you kind of talked about this, like past hurts, like, you know, that's another thing we let clutter us. And that's we could talk, you know, for months on that, right? Past baggage, past relationships, past hurts, things with ourselves, things with other people, things with our kids, things with our spouse, things with our parents, right? Like, just clear it out. Unfinished projects. I hate how I feel when things are unfinished and I feel like nothing's getting done all the way and well. And it's all these loose ends. Maybe just find something that's kind of unfinished and tie that up with a bow, right? And get it off your plate. Done, gone, right? So in any of these areas, I want to just introduce you to the 4 Ds. You might've heard of these before, but hopefully they're gonna have a little bit more pack of a punch because of what we talked about. When you're looking at something that's, you know, cluttering your life in any of those categories, first thing, what can I dump? What just needs to go? Don't even need it. not necessary, not going to make the world spin any faster or slower, not going to move me towards my goal achieved, not serving me with my goal achieved, right? Just out. Second one, delegate. Shelly, this is what you're starting to do with your girls, right? I don't need to do this. So what can I take off my plate? Because you can do it, right? Maybe it's even hiring somebody to come clean your house once a month or once a week. You know, maybe it's, yeah, handing that chore over to one of your kids, or having a conversation with your spouse and saying, hey, this is something, if you can take this piece, this would be really helpful. Maybe in your business, it's hiring a VA to help with, you know, some of the social media stuff, so you're not spending all the time on there and get stuck in there. Like, what are things that do need to get done, but you don't have to be the only one to do it. Sometimes we can use technology in a positive way to help with some of those things too, right? So there could be some technology things or systems that could help with that process as well. So maybe it's not a person that helps delegate, that you're delegating it to, but maybe it's a system or a technology or an app or something. As long as it's used in the right way, it can be a really healthy thing. The third thing is delay. Now, like, what is not for now? Now, this is different than procrastinating. Procrastinating is I should do it now and I'm not. Delaying is I'm going to give this a better spot where I can give it the attention it needs, right? So right now, yeah, taxes need to be done so they can get in. So maybe other things are going to wait because, you know, right now that's where my focus is. But instead of just leaving it off somewhere, put it on, you know, maybe you need to schedule it a month or two out. Like, I'm going to revisit come back to this, put on your calendar, put a reminder on your phone, you know, for whatever that thing is, because you're just saying, you know what, right now is not the time. So that ideally, guess what you only want left on your plate is what you need to do, right? What you truly need to do. And what you, with your goal achieved, would do, how she would invest her time, how she would invest her money, and how she would invest her focus and her energy, right? Ideally, that's all that should be left, whether it's the stuff around us or the stuff that's on here or the stuff that's on our calendars. It should only be the things that you, with your goal achieved, would invest in as well, right? And so then guess what? Now you're saving all that time, all that money, all that energy, all that focus that was all stuck, the coagulating we talked about in the beginning. And now guess what? You get to redirect and invest it in what matters to you, in that business you want to build, in that ministry you want to serve in that relationship that you want to grow, and you know, that trip that you want to take, whatever it is, right? You've just freed up all of this stuff that was stuck to put into where it is that you want to go. How does that feel?
Good.
A little better, huh? Yeah. But remember, we live in a culture of hustle and hurry and stuff and clutter and all that. Okay. So when we leave here, I hope that I've given you some good ideas, right? And this is going to be some starting points that we want to snowball and to go into more. And then, you know, it's like my desk. Yes, this was totally decluttered a week ago, and now I've got piles again. And guess what? It'll just take me a few minutes after we're done to go ahead and finish, you know, decluttering. It's going to be something you keep coming back to, right? And not feeling like you have to tackle it all. But when you know, this is why goal achieved thinking is so important. When you know your purpose, when you know your vision for what you want your life to look like, not just in what you want, but how you want to feel and who you want to be in it. And then you're setting goals according to that. Like, then these choices are going to be so much easier, right? And you're going to recognize when something comes in that doesn't fit. You're going to be like, no, it doesn't fit. No, you're not even going to, like, you know, bring it home from the Target. Target's like the dangerous place. Thankfully, we now live 45 minutes away. Nikki and I live in the same town. So I used to be 15 minutes away from a Target, way too easy to get there. Now it, like, you know, I've got to really commit if I want to go to Target. And I do enjoy when I do that, right? But it's really starting with that. So as we're talking about this, you guys are going to be the first to hear about this. I'm super excited about this announcement, and then we're going to close this up. I truly believe that's so important to have a personalized plan, to have resources, because we can't do this on our own, ladies, right? When the culture, we're like salmon swimming upstream, right? Everybody around us is going that way, and we're like, nope, I'm going this way, right? When we have community of people around us and we have accountability like this, these are all the things that we need. And it all starts with knowing what our purpose is, right? And what we want this life to look like. So I'm going to launch for the very first time, the Repurposed virtual experience, which is going to be a 4-week experience. And so here's what that's going to involve, if that's something that you're interested in. It's going to be a live workshop. And this is going to happen in May. So I will give you all the details on it in just a minute, but it's going to happen in May. There'll be a live workshop where we are actually getting stuff done. You know how, like, I sent you to go get something that you were going to declutter? Like, we're going to, like, be writing out your purpose statement, your repurpose statement, while we're in the workshop. So you will leave there with, okay, This is what everything has to go through the filter of this, right? Then after that, over the next 3 weeks, you're gonna have 3 self-paced modules that are gonna help you develop a 5-year vision and set 7 breakthrough goals. So you're gonna start looking at different areas of your life and what do I want this to look like? And what's a goal that I can set here? So I've got something that I'm working towards instead of just I'm just kind of going through life, right? In the midst of that, we're gonna have group coaching calls where you can get on and we're gonna give support for how you're designing your life in those 7 key areas. And then you're also gonna get an individualized one-on-one coaching call where you get just you and I sitting down and personalizing that for you and talking about exactly what you want that to look like, right? So I am going to, and I just realized I got so busy doing some other stuff this morning. I forgot to like make this look pretty down here. I had all my notes in there and I was going to go back in and make it look pretty. So you guys are seeing the not so pretty version, but that's okay. So here, and I don't even know if I have this on, oh, I do have this on here. So it's really knowing where do you want to put your mind, your time, your focus, right? And saving that and getting that return on investment. So if this is something you're interested in, this is a 4-week experience that you're getting. What I decided to do is through Monday at 5 o'clock Central Time, I'm doing what I'm calling the early bird or the fast action. I decided to call it the early bird since I typed this up option where you can get that for $497 or you can break it up into 3 payments. So if that's easier for you, you can do it that way as well. Then after that, the price is going to go up to $547, right? So, but here's what's so cool. Number one, you're going to end up saving yourself time, money, energy, right? Because the principles and the things that we're going to talk about are going to help you with focusing towards you with your goal achieved. So I want you to see this as something that's an investment, unlike that thing I brought home from Target that I just spent money on, and now it sits on my kitchen counter. And yeah, it's really cute to look at the fact that my dishwasher, okay, you're gonna laugh at this. In the midst of me having a dishwasher not working, I was at Target and I found this little sign that says dirty clean and I bought it. And it's on my kitchen counter and my dishwasher still doesn't work. And that was over a month ago that I bought that little sign. Like, I mean, yeah, it didn't cost me that much, but really, literally, I just bought it because it looked cute. And I knew one day I would have a dishwasher working again. And who knows if when we do, I'll even remember to switch the sign. Like, seriously, why do we spend money on things sometimes? You know, anyway, that's just me. That was just me. So, but here's what I'm going to do. If you decide after that 4 weeks that you want to continue working closely together and doing one-on-one, then I'm going to apply whatever you paid, whether you got the early bird or whether you got the regular price for that 4 weeks, that's going to apply to your first month. Okay. Because I want you to see the value of what happens when you work together and when you really have a plan and support to be able to start working towards what you want. So that's just like my gift to you to say, you know what, I truly believe this is going to be a lot of value to you. And whether you decide to go past, us working closely together after that or not, it's fine. I trust you're still going to get out of that 4 weeks a lot of value that's really going to help, and save you a whole lot of things. So here's what I would say is that you can, especially if you're watching the replay right now, make sure that you send me a message or send me an email and just say, yep, I'm committed. I'm committed to living a decluttered life. I don't want to keep living with all this clutter around me in my house that I've spent money on and I'm spending time on that I don't need to. I don't want to keep living with all this clutter on my device and the way that I'm spending my time using it. I don't want to keep living with all this clutter in my schedule where I'm not getting to spend time with the people and the things and the dreams and the goals that matter most to me. I'm ready to really just focus on what my goal achieved would look like and working towards that. And if you don't know, so what I'm going to do is I will give you guys the link. So if you're already like, yep, I want to do that 4-week experience, it's going to start the first week of May and it's going to go through the month of May. The link is going to be lissafiggins.com/early. Okay. So that's going to be for the special pricing that goes through Monday. If you're not sure, and you're like, so if you're sure you want to do it, you can go in there and then you can choose what you want to do. There is an option you'll see in there. You can add on a VIP experience. So if you're like, Lissa, I need more of you, I don't trust myself kind of doing the self-paced thing. Can we be more intentional and be connected every week during that 4 weeks? Yes, you can. And that would be choosing the VIP option. Okay. Because that's going to be you and I spend time together every week during that 4 weeks. Right? So that we're really just talking about you, each one of those weeks on what you're working on. So that's an option, in there as well. And again, whatever you do for that month of May will then be credited if you decide to continue on when we go into June. So the link for that is lissafiggins.com/early. And that pricing will be good until Monday at 5 p.m. Central. And then it will go up a little bit, not a crazy amount, but I always like to say for those of you who are ready to just say, I'm committing and I'm doing this, you know, I want to make sure that I'm rewarding you for taking, you know, that step. And if you don't know for sure, and you're like, I don't know what my next best step is. I don't know if I could afford that. I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know. Right. Like, let's just hop on a call. Right. So you can, you know, just message me or email me and say, hey, let's do, can we just talk? You know, we will hop on the phone 15, 20, 30, whatever time we need to just talk through where you are and where you want to be and what can help you do that. Okay. So I'm going to just end the screen share